Hi guys, welcome back. So Picard episode 2, Maps and Legends, is upon us. There's a lot of exposition in this episode and a lot of new facts we get to find out, and one very important piece of information that is exceptionally good news. So let's take a look and see what we can learn. So the episode starts 14 years ago at the Utopia Planitia shipyards just before the rogue synth attack. And it kind of sets up the fact that people are kind of a bit racist towards these androids. They're calling them plastic people and they're kind of ripping on the androids a bit, and they're not really kind of very well regarded, these guys, compared with the pedestal that androids like Data was put on. These guys are just the scum of the earth. They're the workers, they're the grunts that do the dirty jobs that nobody else would want to do. And this is the fear that Picard and Data had in Measure of a Man in Season 2, that this is what would happen if an army of androids was built, and it seems to have come to pass. But one thing we did get in this opening sequence is a lot of really nice effects shots showcasing the whole Mars starbase construction system, the ground facility, the facility in space. There was a lot of really nice effects shots in this opening sequence. I must say the F8 androids here look especially creepy. They're not at all welcoming or inviting or friendly looking like Data was. These guys are straight up serial killer, creepy looking guys. And as they're in the control room here at Utopia Planitia, this F8 android looks like he gets some sort of transmission or something. Here's 1 minute he's kind of perfectly fine. Something activates within him where his eyes he's receiving a signal or he's being activated. So it would seem like this rogue synth attack on Mars hasn't been like an android uprising, more so somebody has programmed these androids, or some sort of sleeper program that's been embedded within them has been activated by an outside force. So I don't honestly think that these guys knew what they were doing. They've been programmed at this particular moment in time to attack by some outside force. And this is where the episode turns dark. Star Trek has always been a little bit more family friendly than what we're kind of seeing here in Picard. We've got the android reaching out, snapping the neck of a guy. We've got them blowing holes through people with phasers. We've got characters swearing constantly. It's a different tone than what we're used to for Star Trek. My 11-year-old and my 8-year-old were desperate to watch Star Trek Picard. I've shown them a lot of Next Generation episodes. They love Next Generation and the movies and all that sort of stuff. And they were really looking forward to watching Picard. I got to say to them that this show is kind of too violent for them and has too much adult content, which as a viewer myself, I don't mind, but it's a shame that I'm not able to share this show with my kids in the same way that I've been able to share previous installments of Star Trek with my kids. Then we go to a scene of Picard and Laris and Zhaban analysing footage from the moment where Dahj was destroyed. They're going through as to who might be responsible for this event. Now we get a lot of exposition. There's like 2 scenes intercutting between Laris and Zhaban and Picard talking in the vineyard in his office. And then we go to Laris and Picard in Dahj's apartment, analysing sort of forensically, like kind of Star Trek CSI, what went down in this apartment. And it's like, whoa, like there's like a lot of exposition incoming here on this new Romulan secret organisation called the Zhat Vash, which are like an even more secret version of the Tal Shiar. So it seems like these Zhat Vash have an absolute hatred for anything synthetic, androids and the like. And these guys have been in operation way beyond the Tal Shiar, even thousands of years before the Tal Shiar. So, and they've managed to keep themselves, secretive ever since. And Laris is scanning the apartment and everything and working out how they've covered up the entire incident, and Dahj's boyfriend, and the whole attempted capture of Dahj by these Zhat Vash Romulan operatives. Even Laris in this scene drops the F-bomb. She calls the Zhat Vash cheeky f***ers. And it's like, okay, I don't mind characters dropping the F-bomb or whatever in this episode. It seems a little bit outside of Star Trek's purview. I think if Picard started dropping the F-bomb, we'd go, hang on, that's way out of context. That's way out of context for him. So I think providing they keep it to outside characters swearing, it isn't as jarring. But still, I would have liked to watch this show with my kids, and I kind of can't do that now, which is a little bit disappointing. So it seems this Zhat Vash absolutely can't stand androids or any form of synthetic life, but nobody seems to know why. It's like, well, why have they got this prejudice and this absolute hatred? It's kind of a bit of a question mark at this point in time. So Picard and Laris, they kind of hack her emails to locate where her sister Soji might be. And they manage to find out that she is not on Earth because the incoming emails, for want of a better term, have a off-world signature to them. They now know they're looking off-Earth to find Soji. So now we go back to the Borg cube with Narek and Soji, and we find out that basically Romulans have taken over an old Borg cube that has been heavily damaged in battle. The connection has been severed to the collective, and basically Romulans are now on this Borg cube extracting technology. They're profiting from the sale of Borg technology, and they've got an entire workforce here that basically their job is to just pull apart bits of the old Borg cube, disconnect old drones, and salvage whatever they can. Now we find out that Narek and Soji are engaged in an intimate relationship, but it very much seems like he's just doing this to monitor her. I think Narek knows that Soji is an android, and he's keeping very close to her to monitor her. You get the impression that Narek is one of these Zhat Vash operatives. We now get a scene with Picard and his old chief medical officer from when he was on the Stargazer. Picard and his old doctor have a cup of tea, and unfortunately, his old doctor from the Stargazer gives him some bad news, that he is actually suffering from a terminal illness. This could be the same terminal illness that Picard was suffering from at the end of the Next Generation episode, All Good Things, the series finale, where he was suffering from Irritonic syndrome. It was kind of like a form of dementia, I suppose, and it was resulting in these weird, situations and flashbacks and stuff where he was moving through time and all that sort of stuff. So possibly, in some way, this could be related to that event. They haven't actually given it a name. Seems like some of these little hints of plot that we've seen in past Star Treks and the series finale, All Good Things, are coming to pass, because this show is now set kind of around that same time that flash forward in All Good Things was set. So unfortunately, Picard is terminally ill. How long he has, we don't know, but we know the clock is ticking for him. Kind of makes me wonder, like, in this scene, why Beverly Crusher wasn't here. Surely Picard should have been talking to Beverly in this scene, rather than bringing in this new character that was Picard's chief medical officer on board the Stargazer. Seems like surely this information to find out you're terminally ill is such a important reveal. I feel that really should have been Beverly doing that. But who knows, maybe they're saving Beverly for another moment down the track that's even bigger or more important. Maybe she can come up with a cure and save the day, I don't know. So now we arrive at Starfleet headquarters, where Picard arrives to have a chat with an admiral there to kind of request to be reinstated. It's quite nostalgic to see the holographic models in the foyer of Starfleet headquarters rotating there, and you can see that Picard's looking up with a bit of nostalgia there to see his old ship on display in such a grand state. So Picard is talking to this admiral, and he's saying, yeah, I got this mission, I gotta go and find Soji, I gotta find Maddox, I'm gonna need a ship, give us a crew. And this admiral seems to have a bit of a checkered past with Picard. They haven't seen eye to eye on perhaps matters previously. And she's not very happy with him. Again, in this episode, we get the F-bomb dropped a second time from her, basically saying, the fucking hubris of you, mate. you ask all this stuff, and it's like Picard's kind of taken back a bit, It's kind of, again, it's a little bit jarring with the more fruity language popping up here in Star Trek, which we, aren't used to seeing that kind of before. And, it's taking a little bit of getting used to this slightly shift in tone. I don't hate it, but again, I'm kind of a bit sad I can't show my kids this show, So the Admiral sends Picard on his way, tucking his tail between his legs. And Picard is not at all happy. So now we're back on board the Borg cube with Soji, who she's just introduced herself to a new Trill doctor that's come on board to help out with whatever research, dismantling work they're doing here with the ex-Borg cube. And we find out that she's working in an area of the cube called the Grey Zone, which obviously has some weird stuff going on, maybe some radiation or whatever, but they've got to wear these little octagonal, hexagonal badges which detect issues of some kind on them. So it seems like they're doing quite hazardous work here on this Borg cube. We're now back at Picard's vineyard where he's having an afternoon tea cup of Earl Grey with Dr. Jurati. And holy crap, do they drink a lot of tea in this episode or what? The scene starts with her looking at an old Isaac Asimov book, and Picard says, I never really cared for science fiction, which was kind of a cute little line. And during their cup of tea, Picard learns that Dr. Jurati also loves a glass of Earl Grey. So she just got a few extra brownie points in Picard's eyes because of that. So here we learn a bit more about Bruce Maddox, and he's left his research behind, and he had contact with Data, and that when Daj was accepted into the Daystrom Institute, all of her history, her backstory, her qualifications and everything that got her in there, it was all concocted. It was all a big concoction to get her there. And it would seem like this android Daj and assumedly Soji, which obviously created at the same time, these guys are only a couple of years old. Their entire memories and history has all been created very recently by Bruce Maddox before he went into hiding. So now we're back on board the Borg cube with Soji working in a lab, and it looks like they're basically taking apart old Borg drones. They're taking off eye implants and taking off arm attachments and bagging it all up for, I guess, the sale of black market R&D in Borg tech. And Soji's kind of not that keen about them being so kind of cavalier and uncaring. They're calling them nameless. He goes, oh, hang on, these guys, they had a name or they had a race. Like, she isn't a huge fan at how unsympathetic, perhaps, the Romulans are towards this whole deconstruction of Borg drones. These were, in fact, used to be people, and they should be given maybe a little bit of respect. So the Romulans are kind of looking at each other, kind of go, oh, what's going on here with this attitude? Then we're back at Picard's chateau, and he's having a tough time with this. He goes to his desk drawer, and he pulls out his old comm badge from when he was in Starfleet. And Picard contacts his former first officer from the USS Verity during the whole Romulan evacuation mission, Rafi Musika. And he contacts Rafi and says, oh, don't hang up, Rafi. I need your help. I need a ship. So now we're back at Starfleet headquarters where we get to meet this new Commodore. And she's, at first glance, appears to be Vulcan. But as we get into the scene a bit more, we realise that she is not Vulcan at all. And she is most likely Romulan. And she is most likely a fairly high up member of the Zhat Vash. And our Romulan Commodore is chatting to our Admiral that Picard had a conversation with earlier in this episode. And this Admiral is letting rip on Picard, saying, oh, he tried to do this and tried to do that. And, you know, she's really kind of dobbing him in. It appears that the Romulans have infiltrated the high levels of Starfleet. So this next scene we go to, which is back at Picard's house, and Laris is not happy at all. Picard's told them about the plan to get a ship and to go and look up and go and find Soji, and Laris is saying, you can't do this. What a crazy idea. But Picard's saying he has to do it and he has to find Soji. And Laris is saying the Tal Shiar know that you know what's going on and they are going to hunt you down and kill you. You're not safe. You cannot go. Whereas Zhaban is kind of being a bit more like, oh, hey, I'll come and help. You know. So Picard says he needs to get a ship and he needs to go and find Bruce Maddox, wherever he may be. So Picard is saying he has to do this. And Zhaban is saying, but you can't do it alone. You need a crew, you need a ship to do this. You know, it's a big mission, you know. And here, remember at the start when I said there was some really important news that I had to reveal, or a little finding that is really good news? Well, I'll tell you what that news is right after this. And Zhaban says, you need a crew. You need Riker, you need Worf, or LaForge. So there's been a lot of questions going around recently, with this whole story about the Utopia Planitia shipyards being destroyed by the rogue synths, and everybody is asking the question, is Geordi alive? Did he survive? Is he dead? We just didn't know until now. Zhaban would have never suggested Geordi as a potential person to call for Picard's help if he wasn't still alive. Whew! So we know now that Geordi made it through the rogue synth attack on the Utopia Planitia shipyards. We know he made it out somehow, whether that be on a ship or whether it was an escape pod or something. But at least now we know Geordi is still alive. Thank God for that. So now back at Starfleet HQ, this dodgy Romulan Commodore calls in a lieutenant working underneath her, and clearly she is another member of this Zhat Vash Romulan secret order, and tells her the entire story of how Picard came in, and she's asking Admiral Clancy for a ship, and he's mentioning the Zhat Vash by name and saying this is not on, this needs to be dealt with. So it sounds like Picard is going to be in a bit of trouble here with these Romulan Zhat Vash operatives, because they're well aware of his poking around and he's trying to find Bruce Maddox, and this is stuff that they're not happy to hear about. So it sounds like he is going to get one of these death squads sent after him very soon, so he better be watching his butt. So it seems very much like that this lieutenant, her mission was in charge of this whole Daj operation that we've seen with the Romulans trying to capture her and everything, and she's kind of botched that up a bit, and the Commodore isn't too pleased about this at all. So even though she's offered to go and take out Picard, the Commodore said, no, I will deal with Picard if he persists in being a bit nosy. You go and handle what you should be doing, which seems to be the liaison with Narek and his surveillance of Soji on the Borg cube. So now Picard goes and visits Rafi. And Rafi's not too happy to see him. She's got the gun out and she's saying, get out of here, get back on that shuttle taxi and get out. And Picard's saying he needs her help. There are secret Romulan assassins working on Earth. He needs her. So Rafi's kind of telling him to get out of here, but then she realizes he's carrying a bottle of wine with him, and it seems like Rafi doesn't mind a bit of a drop of the old Chateau Picard. So she says, is it the 86? And Picard shows her the bottle, and it's like, oh, all right, come and give us a glass. So now we're back to the Borg cube. Narek is studying some footage of Soji in the operating theatre. Lieutenant Rizzo appears to him in a holographic communication. We find out now that Rizzo is a Romulan herself. She's been surgically altered to remove the pointy ears, and Narek is kind of ripping on her a bit, because it seems like Narek and Rizzo are brother-sister. So it seems like their mission here is to find out from Soji where these androids are. I get the impression that there's a lot more of these biological androids, because she asks Narek, has she given up the nest? So, the location of where their others are. So it seems like that Daj and Soji maybe aren't the only unique flesh and blood androids that are out there. Maybe there are a whole bunch more that Maddox made. And we're yet to find out where they are. But it seems like their main goal is to find and destroy all androids. So they're desperately looking for where any might be. And clearly this is what Laris was saying earlier in the episode, where these Zhat Vash have an absolute hatred and despise all forms of synthetic life. So they're just trying to wipe out all these androids across the galaxy, no matter where they might be. So all in all, I like the second episode of Picard. I think they introduced some intriguing bits and pieces, and it was great news to hear that Geordi is still kicking and he's still around. I like it personally, but I'm just kind of getting used to this new, more adult tone that Star Trek has taken on board. Star Trek is no longer a franchise that everybody can enjoy. It's only a franchise that adults can enjoy. So what did you guys think of this episode? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you like it as much as the first episode or less than the first episode? Do you think the direction the series is heading is a interesting and engaging one, please leave a comment in the comment sections. Please subscribe, guys. Really appreciate all your subscriptions and support of the channel. It really helps me out. So anything you can do there would be fantastic. Like, share, all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you guys next time for my next video.